your word is your wand. Yes, your sacred invisible wand. And every time you speak, you summon. Every phrase, every whisper, every declaration is a seed you plant in the field of form. And the law, which hears all, feels all, responds to all, begins immediately to arrange itself according to the frequency of your speech, because in the beginning was the word. Not the money, not the method, not the miracle. The word. And Florence Scovel Shinn knew that if you could just understand the weight of your words, you would never again speak defeat, doubt, fear, or limitation, because every word you speak is an instruction to the universe, a command to your subconscious, a request to spirit, and the word never returns void, it always returns fulfilled. And that means, if you are not speaking what you want, you are unintentionally speaking what you don't, and Florence would ask you now, what have you been summoning without knowing it? What complaints have become daily affirmations? What doubts have become silent prayers? What stories have you told yourself so often that they've now become your scenery? And now that you're listening, really listening, can you hear how powerful you are? Can you feel how sacred your voice has always been? Because Florence didn't just write about affirmations. She lived them, tested them, proved them. And what she discovered changed everything, not just for herself, but for thousands who took her words and used them as tools, as weapons, as balm for broken beliefs, and they saw results. Fast, direct, undeniable, because the word, when spoken with faith, creates, and if this feels familiar, if this stirs something deep within you, it's because your soul has been waiting for you to reclaim the throne of your tongue, to realize that your next level does not come through effort alone. It comes through alignment, through declaration, through the holy habit of speaking only what you want multiplied. And Florence would say, the subconscious has no sense of humor, and people often joke themselves into unhappy experiences. So stop joking about being broke, stop laughing about being unlucky. Stop speaking sickness as if it's your identity, and instead, shift your speech, bless your situation, declare your healing, your abundance, your safety, your favor, your unstoppable good, because you are not helpless, you are not trapped, you are not too late. You are powerful, positioned, and poised for overflow if you'll simply align your word with the truth of spiritual law. And the truth is, as she wrote, no matter what happens, you are not upset unless you judge it. And judgment is just a belief spoken aloud. So speak differently, even if your circumstances haven't changed yet, even if your bank account doesn't reflect your vision yet, even if your heart still feels heavy. Speak anyway, speak through it, speak over it, speak above it, because every time you say, I am divinely guided, a door begins to open. Every time you say, there is no competition on the spiritual plane, the anxiety begins to lift. Every time you say, I now draw from the abundance of the spheres, your field begins to shift, and Florence knew that delay does not mean denial. It just means there's still more power to summon, more truth to claim, more of your inner world to awaken. And you are awakening now, you're feeling it, aren't you? That pull in your gut that says, I've been speaking half-truths for too long. That ache in your chest that says, I've allowed sarcasm and stories to shape my outcomes. And now you know better. So you'll do better, not by trying harder, but by speaking higher. Because your life is not built by effort alone. It is sculpted by speech. It is commanded by your word. And if you'll start now, if you'll say out loud, everything I speak is law, then you'll begin to feel what Florence felt. The shift, the click, the calm confidence that comes when you stop begging and start declaring. When you stop hoping and start commanding, when you stop doubting and start deciding that your word is not a wish. It is a law, and the law cannot fail, only faith can falter. But yours is rising now, even now here, because you're ready to become someone who speaks life, not lack, who affirms peace, not pressure, who declares healing in the face of pain. And Florence would smile, whispering, spoken words release power, and that power is in your hands, no, your mouth. Right now, so say Ike. The power of my word is law. Say it again. The power of my word is law. And now say it like you believe it, like you mean it, like the universe is listening. Because it is. Release them and return to your word. Because when you speak the word, you are not just speaking sounds. You are summoning substance, directing energy, shaping outcome, calling that which is not as though it is. And that is not delusion. That is dominion. That is what the ancients knew, and the prophets declared, and what Florence lived every single day. And she would tell you now that you are never at the mercy of conditions, only at the mercy of your consciousness. And your consciousness is shaped moment by what you speak. So even when it's hard, even when it hurts, even when nothing looks like it's working, especially then, That is your sacred moment to rise, to speak what is true in the spiritual realm until it becomes true in the material. Because your voice is the bridge, your word is the channel, your mouth is the gateway through which heaven meets earth. And Florence taught that whatever you prepare for, you attract. And what do you prepare for with your words? Are you preparing for disappointment? Are you rehearsing worst-case scenarios? Are you expecting rejection? Because every time you say, "I always get let down," or "nothing ever works out," you are not describing reality. You are prescribing it, reinforcing it, magnetizing it. And Florence would plead with you gently, change the prescription, change the forecast, change the story, because you are not bound to your past unless you keep retelling it. And so many people came to Florence asking for healing, for abundance, for love, but what they really needed was a new word, a new declaration, a new pattern of speech. And when they spoke what she gave them, things shifted, sometimes instantly, sometimes slowly, but always surely, because law never fails. And Florence proved it not through preaching but through demonstration. She told the story of a woman who had lost everything, a fortune gone, a family turned cold, and Florence simply told her, "Speak the word, God is my supply, and large sums of money come to me quickly, under grace, in perfect ways." And at first, the woman struggled, because her eyes saw nothing, but her spirit, something in her spirit remembered, and she kept speaking it daily, quietly, faithfully, and then within months, opportunities came, doors opened, favor flowed, and the money arrived, not from effort, but from energetic command. And Florence never claimed credit. She simply smiled and said, "That's how the law works when you work the law. And that law is waiting on your voice now, waiting for you to stop repeating the lies of limitation and begin announcing the truths of divine inheritance, because you were not created to suffer, to scramble, to settle. You were created to create with your voice, and if you've used that voice to destroy, now is your time to rebuild, to resurrect, to reclaim." And Florence would remind you that there is a spiritual prototype for everything you desire, and it is already formed. It only needs your word to call it forth. And the longer you speak it, the faster it comes. And if you feel discouraged, if you feel silly, if you feel like nothing's changing, Florence would say, "Don't stop, because delay is not denial, and faith works faster than fear. But you must choose your side, you must choose your vibration, and you must stand by your word. Because the moment you speak from truth and then speak against it, you cancel your own command. So hold your word like you hold a baby. Tenderly, fiercely, without apology. Because you are birthing something every time you speak. And what would happen if you guarded your mouth like you guard your passwords? If you protected your affirmations like you protect your valuables, if you refused to speak anything that would create a future you don't want to live in. Florence would say, fear is only inverted faith. And if your faith has been inverted, this is your day to flip it upright. To speak wealth instead of worry, love instead of lack, peace instead of panic, and you don't need a stage, a crowd, a platform. You only need your voice, your willingness, your word. And she knew that many would hear but few would apply, that many would admire her writings but never take them seriously enough to test them. And so she would ask you gently, not, did you listen? But, did you speak it into being? Because listening is passive, but speaking is creative, and the creator in you is voice activated. And that's why Florence never watered down her truth. She spoke with boldness, with beauty, with spiritual precision, because she knew what worked and she wanted it to work for you. So hear this now, your word is not soft, it is sacred. Your voice is not weak, it is a weapon. And everything you speak today builds the structure of your tomorrow. So choose bricks of blessing, choose beams of belief, choose language that uplifts, builds, and anchors your life in spiritual law. And if others around you speak in fear, bless them, but do not echo them. Do not align your word with their worry, because your reality is formed by your own declarations. And if you want a different world, you must speak a different world, even if your voice shakes, even if your mind wavers, because the soul knows what is true. And when you speak from your soul, you call forth heaven on earth. And Florence would say, no man is your enemy, no man is your friend, every man is your teacher. And your words teach the world how to treat you, how to respond to you, how to mirror you. And what are you teaching the world with your voice? Are you saying, I am not worthy? Or, I am divine by nature? Are you saying, it's too late? Or, all things are possible now? Are you saying, nothing changes? Or, everything is always working in my favor? Because whatever you're saying, you're living. And Florence would offer you this: say it until it shows up, speak it until it settles in, affirm it until it cannot be denied. and stop looking to the world to prove your word true. The word becomes true because you refuse to waver, and she'd remind you, as she did her students, that you do not speak just once and wait. You speak as rhythm, as lifestyle, as law. You speak with faith even when nothing around you agrees, because the moment you speak the word in alignment with divine law, the field begins to shift, the atmosphere begins to change, and your word, yes, your word, becomes the law of your life. And so you rise again, not in noise but in power, not in fear but in faith, not in begging but in bold declaration. And if today is the day you decide to speak only what serves your soul, then Florence would say the law is now working for you, through you, as you, and what was once only a hope becomes a harvest. And once you truly realize it, once it drops from the surface of your mind into the root of your spirit, that your word is not just sound, not just expression, but spiritual legislation, a decree made visible, a vibration encoded into form, then you'll never again speak carelessly. You'll never again toss out sarcasm and think it harmless. You'll never again say, I can't, I'm broke, I'm tired, I never catch a break, and let it pass unchecked. Because now you know, your word becomes your experience, and everything Florence taught, every line she left behind, every affirmation she carefully crafted was a blueprint for soul reconstruction. Because what you speak consistently, you live repeatedly. And the people who mocked her for being too mystical, too feminine, too bold, too certain could not deny the results. Lawsuits reversed, health restored, fortunes made, doors opened. And she didn't say, works if you deserve it. She said, it works if you speak it. Because the law is no respecter of persons, only of vibration. And you may not feel worthy yet, you may not feel ready yet, but if you speak the truth of divine law, it will bypass your old patterns and begin rewriting your inner script. And Florence would tell you, you must act as if you had already received. And you do that by speaking what you desire as if it's already true. Not someday, not one day, but now. And if your mind resists, speak anyway, because repetition rewires. And every time you say, I am divinely guided, your path clears a little more. And every time you say, unexpected income flows to me from all directions, you break down the inner walls built by years of fear. And every time you say, I walk in favor, even while walking through a storm, you bring yourself into alignment with the only reality that matters, divine truth. And Florence would ask you, why keep repeating the story of struggle when you could repeat the story of supply? Why keep reciting generational wounds when you could become the one who speaks healing into your family line? And she believed deeply in breaking cycles with the tongue, that the tongue has the power of life and death. And she would remind you of Proverbs 18:21. Not as dogma, but as demonstration. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. And she proved this by guiding clients who came with decades of suffering and watching their lives turn like pages, not by effort, not manipulation, but by mouth, by mantra, by magnetic speech. And you can do the same, you must do the same, because your family, your legacy, your future depends not just on what you hope for, but what you speak. And even if you grew up around chaos, around silence, around negativity, you can shift the atmosphere by becoming the one who dares to speak a new word, a higher word, a holy word. And Florence would say, if one asks for success and prepares for failure, he will get the situation he has prepared for. And what are you preparing for with your words today? Are you preparing to be disappointed, to be rejected, to be passed over? Or are you preparing for blessing, overflow, restoration, elevation? Because words are preparation. And when you speak with conviction, you alert the universe that you are ready. And what you are ready for rushes toward you. And this is why Florence didn't just give advice. She gave declarations, she gave activations, she gave scripts for the soul to repeat until they became reality. And one of her most powerful phrases was, I now let go of worn-out conditions and receive my good. And it was this phrase that set people free from jobs they hated, from relationships that drained them, from illnesses that refused to lift. Because when you speak of letting go, the universe begins to release what no longer serves. And when you speak of receiving, it prepares delivery. And if you've been stuck, looping in the same old pattern, Florence would say it's not because you're unlucky. It's because your word hasn't shifted. And the moment you start speaking differently, you'll see differently, and then live differently. And this is not theory. This is demonstration. And the reason so many are still waiting on breakthroughs is because they're speaking the language of bondage and expecting the life of freedom. But you cannot summon heaven with the voice of hell. You cannot speak chaos and expect calm. You cannot speak scarcity and expect supply. And Florence would urge you with love and fire, To start now, to speak now, to write your affirmations, say them out loud, declare them over your bank account, your mirror, your meals, your phone, your body, because the word does not wait. It works, and it works in proportion to your willingness to wield it. And if you've never believed before, just start with this: I am open to divine truth. I am willing to receive good. I am choosing a new word. And even that small opening becomes a portal, and Florence setting. Man's word is his wand filled with magic and power. And what if today you picked up that wand and stopped cursing your life with limitation and started blessing it with power? What if you realized you've always had the ability to cast a new reality with your voice, and all that was missing was conviction? Because Florence believed, and her belief became structure, and that structure became legacy, and now that legacy is here, touching your heart, awakening your memory, because deep down, you already know this. You were born knowing this. But the world taught you to forget, to be silent, to fear your own tongue, and Florence came to break that silence, to liberate that power, to remind you that you are not a victim of circumstance. You are a co-creator of destiny, and your primary tool is your word, and when you realize that, your life will never be the same again. And now we come to the place of power, not the external throne, not the material riches, but the inner realization that everything you have ever sought is already encoded in your being, and your access point, your key, your holy switch, is the word you speak. And Florence would remind you now, as she reminded so many in her time, your word is your wand. Not metaphorically but literally. It is your instrument of direction, of healing, of creation, and what you say, you set in motion, what you declare, you demand, what you affirm, you form. Because law does not respond to appearance. It responds to vibration, to intention, to consistency. And even now, right now, as you listen, as you breathe, as you feel this truth vibrating through your bones, you are already becoming the one who will ever again underestimate the power of their tongue, who will never again casually say, I'm tired, without remembering that your body listens, that every cell obeys, that your energy organizes itself according to the frequency of your voice. And Florence would tell you, softly but directly, that if you want to change your world, you must first change your word. And yes, it may feel awkward at first, like speaking a new language, but it is your original language, the one you forgot, the one you buried beneath sarcasm, beneath doubt, beneath the noise of a culture obsessed with realism and allergic to miracles. But miracles don't come to those who worship facts. They come to those who speak faith. And you, yes you, have been chosen to bring the word back into form. And every time you say, I am aligned with divine right action, the path clears a little more. And every time you say, I am now receiving my good from expected and unexpected sources, the field begins to shift. And every time you say, release all resistance to wealth and I allow abundance to flow, the flow responds. Because the word is not just about sound. It's about substance, about aligning with a reality that already exists in the higher realm. And Florence taught that the invisible always precedes the visible, and your word is the bridge between what is unseen and what is manifest. And when you begin speaking from that place, not from fear, not from lack, not from victimhood, but from divine conviction, you start to live not by default but by design. And it doesn't matter what the world says, what the economy says, what your friends or family believe, because once you step into spiritual authority, once you declare, I do not depend on external conditions, I am supplied by divine substance, you will watch the world bend to meet your vibration, not out of magic, but out of law, out of structure, out of the blueprint written in the foundation of the universe itself. And Florence saw it happen again and again. Clients who came broken, who left bold, students who came confused, who left clear, readers who came doubting, who left walking in daily demonstration. And she did not give them rituals, or formulas, or tricks. She gave them the word, the truth, the law. And she said, speak only that which you desire multiplied. Speak only that which is aligned with your highest self. Speak only that which calls forth good. And you will have no need to fight, to strive, to push. Because the word will before you and do the work. And doors will open where walls once stood, and people will say, how did you do it? And you'll smile and say, I spoke it before I saw it. Because that is the way of the word. That is the ancient pattern that Florence reactivated, and now it is being reactivated in you. And this is not just a script, not just a message, not just content. It is an initiation, a remembrance, a sacred unlocking. And the moment you begin speaking with full awareness, your life must change, your relationships must shift, your finances must rise. Your body must respond. Because the word is not optional. It is inevitable, and you can either use it unconsciously and create chaos, or use it consciously and create miracles. But either way, you are creating, and Florence would say, why not create from truth? Why not create from love? Why not create from divine alignment? Knowing that everything you speak in faith must return to you fulfilled, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. And now, here you are, full circle, standing at the gate of your new life. Not because something outside of you shifted, but because inside, you've remembered who you are. And you are not powerless. You are not voiceless. You are not forgotten. You are the spoken word of God made flesh, and your words shape the very fabric of your future. So say this now. Say it with every fiber of your being. I now declare that the power of my word is law. I speak only good. I expect only good. I allow only good. I live in the vibration of divine truth, and every word I speak moves mountains, opens doors, and returns to me fulfilled. And it is so. And Florence would smile now. Not because you listened, but because you believed. And in that belief, everything changes. And now it's your turn to teach, to demonstrate, to speak not only for yourself but for others, to become a living transmission of truth, and let your words ripple through time just like hers. Because this is not just about your manifestation, this is about your legacy, and your legacy begins with the words you choose to speak now, today, forever.